StreetSmarts, upgrading to eBusiness Suite R12.1 and 12.2. How-to, new features, functionality, and better ways to get things done. This is a pre-conference webinar that will be delivered at Collaborate 15. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a couple housekeeping items. You will be on mute throughout the presentation. You can type your questions into the question box in the control panel at any time. Once the presentation has concluded, I will read the questions back so the presenter can respond. We're recording this session and it will be available online shortly. We encourage you to share it with your friends and colleagues you think may be interested. Before I introduce Bill and Michael Barone of OATC, I'd like to give you a brief overview of Collaborate. It's created by and for users. Collaborate 15 provides a personalized experience alongside functional and technical insight from other experienced professionals. Collaborate 15 is jointly presented by the IOUG, the OAUG, and Quest. We have a lot of sessions to offer you at Collaborate 15 on 270 eBusiness Suite, more than 65 Hyperion sessions, and more than 65 Primavera sessions. And that's not all. We have something for everybody. We're offering new learning formats this year. We have an exploration series, 2 of them focusing on EV tax and allocations and cross charges. They're consecutive sessions that build upon the previous one to take you all the way through each of those topics. We're also offering 6 Power Hour sessions. These are deep dive sessions that last 90 minutes and enable you to interact with your colleagues and peers. At Collaborate, Oracle Product Roadmap sessions, Oracle Proactive Support sessions, Oracle Demo Grounds in the Exhibitor Showcase program, Go with the Flow Yoga presented by ChangeThis, a Hyperion Connect reception, Women in Technology Q&A panel, as well as a keynote speaker, and of course, a groovy 60s party. Our exhibitor showcase will feature more than 200 exhibitors that will provide information, education, and demonstrations. Our keynote speaker is Eric Wall, an artist and entrepreneur who was named by the editors of Meeting Net magazine as one of the top 10 speakers of 2014. We'll also have enough content to explore and get excited about. We encourage you to visit the link and over to our speakers, Bill Denham and Michael Barone of OATC Inc.
Great. Thank you, Carly. Well, this is really, I want to just call really a preview of what we will obviously be conducting during the workshop. The session is very similar to what we did last year at Collaborate 14, which was very well attended, and basically I think there was a lot of good interaction. It was a half-day session that seemed like it had gone all day. We had a lot of good interaction with about maybe 50 to 60 people that had participated. Our objective with this presentation / workshop is really to focus in on taking a project from, I'll just say, cradle to grave. So literally organization from a planning perspective, looking at a project and estimating how long it's going to take internally or how long you might think it may take. And taking everything in consideration from a scope perspective. And then looking at it from the technical components and then actually executing it and then managing, and controlling the project. So as the attendees look at this overall description here, this will be focused in and around Release 12 projects, whether really upgrading or implementing. This is very applicable to both. We will conduct, everything evaluating and remediating ChemLease, which are customizations, extensions, modifications, localization. We will have, as it's noted right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Just kind of review. I'm going to touch on a few things here today, just primarily the limited time. We'll talk about how long and how much. The how long component is really focused in around project estimating and helping organizations, areas where we like to have more focus, primarily because a lot of organizations, I'll say, don't do a good job at planning. We have a lot of doers in the world, and this is something to help them considered and taken into consideration primarily from Oracle. There's a lot of certain patch levels that you must be on. So a lot of good technical information being shared here. We will talk a little bit about Java. We're not going to get into a lot of details on this call, but certainly during the workshop, because this is skip over this security component section, and we'll talk a little bit about the meeting, whether they're upgrading or I'll say implement. This is something that we're trying to provide is some I'll say tools to have them assist them, if you will, in evaluating and executing their projects. Your project. Is looking at the time, scope, and dollar triangular shapes that are typical project management triangles. So time, scope, and budget. So time we'll get into in a minute. On the scoping side, what application implementation or an upgrade, there are always business requirements that need to be taken into consideration really with any project. The ChemLeads, I refer to this is a term that's been coined by Oracle many years ago, testing and training in those locations, as well as their time zone considerations. You may have folks that are part of this overall project that may be in another part of consideration. And there certainly may be some other things that you may talk about these things as we get into the how do we budget for a project, and obviously taking in consideration time and scope. Those things will all feed into a budget appropriate to the time and scope. Okay, and you'll see there's multiple resources, sometimes referred to as the 3 constraints of project management. So what we like to do is have our projects is once you scope, cost, and scope. Again, scope is really big, where the timeline is very big, but it has a very low cost. So maybe we're looking at a very common opportunity, and the bid was very low. Up. So it would actually bring our triangle back into shape. The lower example here is where we have very high cost and high schedule, and the scope is a very smaller defined scope. They cannot dedicate team members 100%, so the time would actually stretch. Okay, and the triangle would be back to our normal triangle here. Okay, so from this is again purely examples of projects, and we could all right, wait a minute, our project we executed once before, we had a huge scope, and this slide here is trying to frame up a project. We typically find where organizations will want to go live really in this first bullet point. They're going to want to go live the following what makes the best sense for that organization. What we like to do, we're not looking at everything just yet. We're only looking at these modules. We're saying this is going to be a 3-month upgrade. Okay, so let's move forward here. 3 modules. 3 months. What we're doing here is looking at the 3 modules, plus with an AP in Release 12 we have the payments module, which is much more robust than it had been, so therefore going forward they're going to want to use advanced collections, okay, which is really another module. So what we're looking at is adding 1 more month onto this original 3-month estimate. So now we're saying 3 months plus 1 month for payments implementation, and then plus 1 month for advanced collections implementation. So that gives us, so what we're looking at is including the estimates from the prior page where we were at 3 months, we're at 5 months. Okay, we're assuming that need to be carried forward into Release 12. If any of you out there have customizations or personal, and that form does not exist anymore going months. So now we've got 5 months of functional time and 2 months of developer time. Our other estimate here, as we're going forward, we're estimating still. We're estimating this project time, so we're estimating how long. We're going to talk about the AP check, 2 to 4 weeks or 2 to 6 weeks to actually get this check recreated and put into our new R12 environment. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is roughly 5 months of functional time and 3 months of technical teaser out here. Is what we're looking at. So we need to take into consideration others that would always lead into estimating your project. And then absolutely, we talked a little bit about the localization impact. If you're an DBA that can assist on your team full time and someone else support production, great. Then that would remove the need for this resource. But typically, additional resource needs, you're going to need DBA involvement. And then certainly from a project management standpoint, you may decide that internally you also wish technical expertise is required. So now you're looking at, we may add, let's say 5 months and then 3 months. You're looking at carrying these folks forward, okay, throughout this project. Resources would work in parallel to execute this upgrade project. Okay, so what we will do is when we get into the workshop, we're actually going to get into actually lining this up and literally showing how to actually estimate pretty much dead on during our estimating. So what I would like to do is I'm going to leave it at that, and we can get into how much it costs The assumption would be we've already done some of how and what some of the deliverables will be and things like that. We're not going to go through all these in detail. What I'm going to present is really around these that is part of literally, it really depends on the organization's complexity and needs, how formal you need to be. So let me continue here, but I'm going to get into some of the project planning, governance, in organization around the process, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But planning, you really, when you go from executing a project and you're doing your planning, your definition and analysis, you cannot jump right into a CRP without having proper planning. There should be master test plans that guide you through the prep, solution design and build, where we're building any customizations that we can build in preparation. Next slide. I know this might be hard to read here, and I apologize for that. I've been using this slide, as you can see, for actually quite some time, since 2007. As far as the determining future business requirements, some of the future business requirements could be anything from implementing a new module or perhaps a new feature within a product that you currently own. So current requirements would be your current business requirements. Future would be anything that you want to take into consideration as part of your project, really to build your future business requirements, okay? So those future requirements, once you get those documented and proved, okay, you're going to come down here, and they're actually helping to build your business scenarios and or test scenarios for your project. Is here, if I can get the screen to move, there we go. Scenarios that support the business scenarios that, again, are in support of these businesses. Okay, and these can be typically what we refer to as I want to do this or I want to do that. Let them do that, and then have them report that back to you in the format of the template you've used to create your structured tests. Okay, so what we want to do then is, once we get all these testing scenarios defined, is actually create training material from the testing material. All of this stuff should be linked. If you have business requirements you defined up here, this is how the business wants to operate and is currently operating. And then we've created this documentation based on requirements. Okay. As you progress, we're actually going to feed, testing scenarios are going to feed into your what we call a master test plan. That's going to be our guide. Who's involved, what environments we're using, what, simple as the URL that your users are going to use to get in, especially if your test plans are going to guide people through the execution of each one of them. So we'll have a master test plan for CRP1, which will encompass all of the testing scenarios that we defined here. Okay. And then as you're going through the project, there will be obviously go, no-go decisions made as you progress through these CRPs. You may find that the first CRP is to a pre-CRP, which we saw back on the prior slide, is that pre-CRP we're actually building these test scenarios, and those are then being executed here in each CRP. Into these CRPs, you may find that perhaps a requirement may not find some of these requirements until you get down here as you're getting more and more into your project. Sometimes, bringing in certain individuals impacts the cost of the project. Those are things that got to be taken into consideration. So as you go, I got to watch the time here, but as you get problems in these CRPs, and then as you get into UAT should be very, very clean. UAT will take into consideration the apps here, and those will be defined as integration testing, whether it be inbound, outbound transactions, or whether it's posting the GL. Those are transactions that would be in consideration for system integration testing. But as you progress here, your objective is to get to UAT with a very clean execution, and then obviously prepare and execute the, I'll say, upgrade pass or implementation setup for your go live migration. Okay. I know I'm going kind of quick here. Now I want to give.
Talk for a moment about the e-business suite 12.1 architecture when people strap themselves in for the first time, and we kind of move forward. And in an airplane, just like in an upgrade, nothing really happens until you reach terminal velocity. So here we go. So the next slide shows us at the release dates. So you can see that if you're on 11.5.10.2, it was originally released November 2004. That was the original 11.5.10. And so we're not really showing you all the 11.5.10.1 through 11.7, 11.5.10. Anyway, So, but here the latest release is Oracle's pressing people now to really consider 12.2.4, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes as well. So on the next slide, I would like Bill to chat with us a little bit, but I'll keep the mic here for the time being. As you can see, what we're showing position to be in. That's like flying a multiple aircraft with one engine, which will give you a lot longer longevity. So next slide we'll show is, this is kind of a really good one visually. Again, this came out of Cliff Godwin's presentation at Open World, and we're showing, or he is showing, that in 2015, at the end of the year, extended sustaining support, that's that ESS, comes to an end. Now the other charts don't show that. They show a sustaining support continuing onward. But the emails we've seen from inside Oracle now are showing that anybody that shows with a SEV 1 on the 11i environment, SEV 1, 11i, will probably be charged for the fixing of their product. So we don't know. Bill and I have been trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work, but we're cautious about that. So scoot on to the next presentation. Let Bill really talk some meat. Showing 12C yet on this chart, but we're showing 11.2. Most people are concerns for me and Bill. I'm the DBA on the team, so they're especially critical to me because this is how I keep my job. And I mean, not that I press upgrades, but that I don't lose my job. G, Oracle 11, etc. So here again, this is the database timeline. Another Stephen Chan giveaway showing you're really out of. So if you're at 10.2 in the Oracle eBusiness the Oracle database engine, you're really out of extended support back to 2013. So you want to be up to 11.1 or at least 11.2. Anyway. So once again, here's some baseline support. These are your support upgrade paths at 10. If you're at 11.5.9 or older, you will have to upgrade to 11.5.10. Here we're showing 12.2 upgrade paths straight from 11.5.10.2. And rest assured that Oracle is not going to make it as easy as we would have liked. We just went out yesterday or the day before and tried to re-download the 12.2.4 media, and it is not media, it is an upgrade patch. So those of us that have done these upgrades, you know, you're always hoping for an easier step. But the step here would require, if you wanted to jump to 12.2.4, you'd upgrade to 12.2, and then we'd apply the upgrade patch to 12.2.4. This is a really great slide. You install all the upgrades, you know, make sure your infrastructure is correct, you know, have your method. The CRP method is great. It works great for us, and it's worked great for a lot of other people. Optimize the upgrade tasks so that you can actually make the process perform more quickly. Do a stress test. A lot of organizations skip that completely. So proactive support, you know, make sure that you're tuning long-running tasks, and we can help you, you know, find those long-running tasks. And, you know, Bill likes to circle the repeatable tasks. You have to landscape. And all the way to the bottom, we can skip to production stabilization, contingency, restore, recovery. You know, what is the unthinkable? If they can't validate, whatever the issue is, do you have a fallback plan? And that really should be tested. So that's the Bermuda Triangle for aviators and DBAs. This is a really great diagram. I only put one in here. This is 12. Is we get into don't put the key in right away. Okay, so in other words, the key to start the engines, pull out the checklist. The second step is, you know, make sure the key goes into the ignition. Anyway, the next slide will show a little more details. So here we go. We're going to jump now to the next agenda slot, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, well, this is just like an airplane talk. So here's our good, bad, and the ugly. The good is, or you have a browser that's supported by Oracle, know that you're always getting prompted to get that upgrade done, or the latest version of your internet browser upgraded to prevent hacking. What we want to draw attention to this time is there's the support note 3899. Excuse me, 389. And the reason we brought that up this time is you'll notice that we can support Oracle, so that's going to be a problem. But it is certified for Windows 8.1. So it's like, wow. So you can see the step pattern here that's appearing. So 8.1, IE 11, or W11 supports Windows 8.1, and IE 10, that's 1.0, really supports Windows 8.0. So the two zeros are supporting each other, and then really the more stable product would be really IE 9. So anyway, we'll see about questions. So we're nearing the, we're on final approach here. So 12.1, most people don't really get excited about any of these products. So there's a large footprint, and there's certain equilibrium to indecision about Jira. So there's some real meat here. There's some real launching points. The next slide will show us 12.2. Decided to jump to 12.2. Most people don't need a new product, but the highlights. So there's much fewer ALM and services. So let me turn it over kind of quickly here to the next. So here's our summary. And really, a lot of folks are trying to jump to 12.2 only because it has an explain. So timeline, that may not be the correct answer for you. It's probably a good idea to pull your teams together and actually profile options. And to me, kind of the most important one is the one at the top, concurrent show request summary after each request submission. That's a long profile name. But what it means is, and it gets set to default, it gets set to no, which says that as soon as I submit a concurrent request, it goes right back to the screen and says, hey, do you want to submit another concurrent request? Well, I'm the DBA, so usually I submit one request at a time, and most users do the same thing. So it's kind of frustrating because it takes us back to the submit screen rather than the summary screen. So just be aware of that. That's easy to flip. You may not remember it, but you'll say, hey, I think I heard about that one place. And this is it. It's concurrent show request summary after each. Here it is. Oh, those really don't really have any bearing. The last two on the screen, but they're new. That's it. Okay. That's looking at some of the D support dates is how can you I guess from your organization is how often done in your organization is that 1.3 you're going to be faced with another upgrade to 12.2. I'll say in our workshop we will absolutely talk more about 12.2 and what it means to certain organizations. The online patching just may not be that I'll say strong of a case for some organizations because they have a very small operation and the online patching is not that important to them. So it really, and I hate to say it really depends on your organization's requirements, and for we'd have to understand more about your organization before making really a recommendation. I do hope that question comes up, and I'll make note of it here for us to work on that for the workshop. Any other questions?
We do have another question. We have been considering re-implementing on 12.2 versus upgrading. The reason we're thinking re-implement is we have issues with our vendor setup, and we're told that re-implementing might be easier. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, that's a tough one. We obviously need to understand what the issues are around your vendor setup. It must be something fairly complex. I would, just don't re-implement, but we would need to understand more about that issue to see why someone would be pushing you towards re-implementing. There's a lot of additional costs associated with that. Certainly, from if you start looking at the project management constraints, you're going to have much higher risks. These upgrades are very, very doable. I think there's probably a session or two at Collaborate that may specifically talk to, and I'm sure some of the panels will probably discuss this too, but there will be some of the sessions that, and we'll certainly talk about it in our workshop, but there will be sessions, I'm sure, that will speak to that in more detail. But that's a tough question, and without knowing more, I probably wouldn't be able to answer that, thoroughly, I should say.
Okay, we have one more question. Our company is splitting into two companies. Should we upgrade before we split or after we split?
That's another one. Well, the assumption would be that you're going to be sticking with Oracle for both companies. It might be best to, and Michael, you want to add to this, but I think I would say you might want to try it before, and then have everybody work as a team together. So you're not doing two upgrades, you're doing one. And then proceed with your split after that. Now, is it split? Again, I think we need to understand some more, but is it being split because it's going to be sold off? Does it need to be a separate installation and things like that? But I would say approach the split after upgrading to R12. Michael, you want to add to any of that? No? Okay. Okay. Hopefully that helps.
That does cover all of our questions. If you would flip to the next slide, I'd like to give our attendees a little information on the next steps. Michael and Bill have indeed given you a great preview of their workshop and shown the value of what they can teach you. So to register for the workshop and the conference, you will need to go to Collaborate. You receive a $200 discount by booking your hotel room in one of our official Collaborate 15 hotels. So book your room first at the location, of course, as always, groups of 4 or more, and everyone who registers before the early bird discount ends on 2/25. So that's February 25th. You've got a few days to register. There's a lot of buzz circulating around Collaborate 15, and we have more speakers and keynotes being announced regularly. So please follow the conversation at any one of these social media sites. I do want to thank you for attending today's preview. I want to thank our presenters, Bill Dunham and Michael Barone of OATC. And if you have any questions, join the conversation. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.